he works out of state a lot, so when he's in town, we hang out. But when he's in town and he's off of work, to save time, so I give him the key to my house, one, because I trust him and he's one of my best friends, and two, because sometimes he will just meet me there, because I'll be like, hey, I'm getting off of work, and then if I get stuck in traffic or something, he ends up like sitting outside of my apartment waiting for me to get off of work. So I'm like, here's the key, and like my dog loves him and stuff. So no, he's not.
So he's just a family
with
friend.
Yes, I don't even.
The only reason I ask, and I'm not really concerned about your location. I think we already have your cell phone records. At some point, did Mark ask you to supply? Did they ask for consent to get cell phone records? That'll probably be done by warrant. If we wanted,
what you just did?
Nope. What I'm talking about is your movement.
Oh.
By GPS or by cell phone tower to show where you were. Obviously, and I don't want to cause you concern, we want to know where you were that day too. You're dating a man who did some egregious stuff, and we want to show that you were never near him that day. Period.
I mean, you guys can track my
No,
stuff.
yeah, I mean, that was something we will have to get a warrant for anyways. I'm just saying, if we asked for it, would you have any objections to that?
No, you can have it.
So,
I'm a pretty boring person.
Well, it sounds like you just went to work that day, and then you came home, and you were there at 3:45.
Yeah, like give or take like 5 minutes.
Whatever.
But yeah, so 3:45. I meet Jim there. Yeah, I would
And
totally
so Jim is understand from an investigative point, he could be a person who could say, yeah, I was there at 3:45. He doesn't know Chris. He doesn't know anything. He could say with one phone call, yeah, she came in at 3:45. Done.
Totally.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't have to ask anything more than, hi, Chris, my name's Kevin. Or Jim. And I'm not saying you have to go to
Just leave Jim alone.
If at some point,
if
if at some point I needed Jim's info to, let's say we couldn't find your phone records, would you tell me who Jim is?
I will give them to you.
Would you tell me who Jim was if I couldn't?
If you
get
had
him?
to.
Okay.
I don't really want to involve him in this. That's
Perfect.
not fair to him. That's not, no, if I do not have to do that.
That's fine.
Yeah, so anyways, Chris was like, call me.
And this is the 3:45 text.
Yeah, he sent me like a few. I think there was 3 of them, and I don't remember what the other one said, but something about like, yeah, my family's gone, or I don't remember verbatim, but call me when you can, or call me when you have a chance, something to that effect. And so when he told me call me, I was like kind of alerted, where I was like, okay, what's going on, you know? But first when he told me like his family was like not home, that didn't really seem odd to me that his family wasn't home. It was really vague. I'm like, okay, like, are they at the grocery store? Like, elaborate. And so, you know, and then, but he says, call me like it's like an emergency, but then just says that they're not there. And so I'm like really like floored by that. Well, not like floored, but just kind of like, he says, call me, so I'm concerned. And then he's really vague, so I'm like, maybe he just wants to talk to me? I don't know. I think it took me a little while to like really process the severity of the situation, just because this is not something that you expect to see every day, and the way that he talked to me made me believe that this is not what was going on at all.
Okay, so you make a phone call to him and you guys have a conversation.
I did. I stepped outside.
This is 3:45.
Ish. I mean, well, like, I think I actually interacted with Jim for, like, probably a good 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, he's my guest. He's in my house. So I don't think I called him right away. But, like, I mean, I'm trying to balance the fact that I have my friend here, and then Chris is saying that something needs to be addressed. But to me, it didn't sound like an emergency. I mean, it's all the time. Like, people aren't home right now. You know, so it just... It wasn't like, oh my God, I have to take this call.
It didn't register as being critical.
No. I mean, it was the way he said it, and I was like, okay. So I remember hanging out with Jim for a while, and then I stepped outside, and I made a call, like, out on my back patio, and I called him, and he didn't answer the phone. And then he texted me back. Oh no, did he answer the phone? I don't remember. I think he missed my call, and then he called me back. Or he just answered. Either way, it was a very short talk to him where he was just like, I have to go. The cops are here. And I don't remember if he said that on the phone or over text.
That's okay.
I'm so tired.
That's fine. You don't need to.
But either way, like,
it's
the
just
cops,
the context.
Yeah, I mean, you guys will figure it out. The cops are here. And I'm just like, all right. And then I remember we were like we were texting, but I was like hanging out with my company, so it wasn't like a nonstop text. It was just kind of like I would check my phone every once in a while, and we would communicate with each other. And he was just saying like they weren't there, and that her friend Nikki was there, and that her friend Nikki had called the cops. And I'm like, why would this girl call the cops? And like, I honestly do not remember the order of operations on all of this, but I'm pretty sure the majority of our conversation that night until my friend Jim left the house, which was probably pretty late, I don't even know what time, like 9 or 10, was all via text. So you should have this via text. Like,
Okay.
I don't think we started talking again on the phone until like after my company left. And he was like, I don't know, he just started like giving me details about stuff, and I don't remember what order, but he was saying like Nikki was really upset and that the cops were there and that they were like searching the house, and I was just like, what? You know, like what? Why? And he was telling me that they had like had a disagreement or something like that, and then he told me like she was gonna go to a friend's house, and I was like, okay, well, maybe she left. You know, maybe she just like went to her friends. And then I think I don't remember, but I think he was the one that told me that her cell phone and her purse were still there. I think he told me that.
He told you her cell phone and purse were still there?
I think he did. I don't remember.
What's the significance of that in your mind at that time?
At that point, I thought this woman was really trying to get out of this house.
Okay.
That's what I thought, because he said that they'd had a disagreement, and I was just like, okay, well, I mean, I leave my cell phone at
When
home.
he said disagreement, what did he tell you what it was about, or?
Not at that point. Not at that point. So, again, like, you guys are going to have to check these texts, because it's all, like, my brain feels
That's
like
okay.
a mashed potato right now. But I remember him saying that, and I'm just thinking, like, well, maybe she was in a rush, you know? Like, maybe she was just like, I'm going to my friends. I'm leaving my cell phone here because I don't want you calling me. I don't want anyone else calling me. I mean, there are days where, like, when I'm outside of work, I will just shut my phone off. I just do it, and it's, like, my way of getting peace. So to me, that, I mean, like, it was weird that it wasn't even that weird to me that she left her phone just because I leave my phone, but it was weird to me that she left her purse. But knowing the fact that that girl was, like, always on her phone, then, yeah, I guess that is kind of odd.
Like, she lived on her phone, I think,
yeah.
pretty much, is my understanding of her and a phone. So, I don't know if you knew that
I did.
until prior to the media stuff, or just from Chris.
I did.
So, did that strike you as odd? But you're thinking maybe she just left.
I just thought she needed to, like, get away from the situation. I mean, that didn't seem that awkward to me, that a couple that is going through separation would be like, I need to leave. I just need some space. Like, it didn't even, like, process. I was like, okay, like, give her some space, you know? And on that note, too, when he was in, we're going to jump back for just a second.
It's okay.
I had a thought. So when he was coming back from North Carolina, that was when he officially told me we're going to get a divorce and we're going to put the house up for sale. Like, he told me they were separating and they were, like, going to put the house up for sale, but they hadn't done it yet. And then when he got back from North Carolina, that was when he was like, it was like a sealed deal.
Okay.
And the reason that is of significance is because at some point over the weekend, I don't remember when, he told me that they were putting the house up. I don't know if it was they were putting it up on Monday, like the day they went missing, or if it was that they were calling the realtor to verify some stuff so they could put it up that week. Like, I don't quite remember. I just remember, like, the house was supposed to be, like, on the market, like, that week.
Did he name a realtor ever?
Yeah, he did, and I don't remember her name. It was a female.
Okay.
And I don't remember her name, like,
That's
at all.
fine.
I was trying to think of that for you guys not too long
Is that the
ago.
company? Do you got the company name?
No, he never gave me that. He, like, gave me her name, and it was the same name twice. He gave it to me once when he was in North Carolina, and then once the other time. Because I remember asking, I was like, who's that? Because he's like, I'm going to have her call so-and-so today and make sure everything's still good to go. And I was like, who's that? He's like, the realtor. It's like, oh. Or not today, but like
If it ever comes to your
Monday.
mind, just
Yeah, I
give me a
doubt
voicemail,
it. That
you
was
can
such
call.
a.
Yeah.
I will try. I don't
lots of
remember
names.
what it was.
It's fine. It's not that critical. That person may come forward to us anyways. A perhaps. So don't worry about it. Let's go back to the phone calls on Monday afternoon.
Yeah, so he's like texting me a lot of this information, and I'm starting to kind of freak out. And it's not like I'm freaked out like, oh, she got murdered. I mean, that is not what I thought. It's like, okay, like the way I looked at this, like apparently his wife had been gone since midday, was when she got like reported missing. I didn't know that. Like the way I looked at this, it was, I got home from work just now. I mean, he didn't say that, but I interpreted, I just got home from work. And my family is not here. So when we're texting for like a few hours, like the cop thing was kind of weird. But he's like, Nikki insisted they call the cops. Nikki insisted they call the cops. And I'm like, okay, and I'm just trying to figure out, well, like, what role does this woman play in this situation? Like, is she...
Did you know who she was?
No, I don't know any of his people. Like, this has been pretty, like, tight wrap for a while, which is probably a really good thing. But anyways, I didn't know, like, who she was. And so, like, I started asking him. I was like, well, where do you think your wife is at? And he's like, I think she'll be back tonight. Like, I think she's, like, out with somebody. And he was telling me that they had a disagreement. So I was like, well, I remember telling him, I was like, you should make sure that you have wait a minute. No. So all that happened, and then it starts getting kind of laid out. And I remember we talked for text for a while, and part of this conversation, and then it moved to the phone. And I remember telling him, because he was like, I think she'll just be back tomorrow. I think she's just going to be gone for the night, like, with a friend, And
Did he name the friend?
No, he didn't. And, like, because I don't think, he made it sound like he didn't know, like, what friend's house she would be at. And I remember talking, and he called the cops. So why would she be at Nikki's house? I'm like, I don't know, kind of throws her off the trail of where she's at, And it's like, it sounds kind of weird, but it's like, he really made this sound like this woman was just, like, upset, left the house. And that was probably what he thought happened to her. And so I didn't really put too much, like...
Did he tell you the kids were missing as well?
Yes,
with her?
I knew.
Okay.
I mean, which made sense to me, because I was like, well, if you were at work all day... I mean, he didn't tell me he got home early. He didn't say that to me. So, I mean, it made sense. Like, if she's going to leave, they should probably go with her. And so, I don't know. I feel like I wish I should have, like, processed all of this earlier, but I just don't feel like when one of my friends is gone, I'm like, oh my God, they got murdered. We should address this. Like, I haven't heard from them in 4 hours.
It's not a typical thought when somebody just checks out for a day.
No. So it got late at night, and, like, I remember telling him, I was like, he's like, I think she'll be back tomorrow. And he was going to go into work, and I told him not to. I was like, you need to stay home, and you need to help the cops. I'm like, and you need to wait for her to come back. And he's like, telling me, like, well, what if, like, she comes back and she sees my truck? And I was like, you know what I would do? I was like, I would ask one of your good friends who's off of work tomorrow to come over this house and hang out with you while you're here. I was like, and go park your truck down the street. I was like, so she's upset at you and she wants to come back. I was like, but she doesn't want to be here if you're here, maybe. I was like, if she comes back, I was like, and she doesn't see your truck, maybe she'd be more willing to come in the house. I'm like, but don't be alone with her. I was like, because if she's upset enough to leave, I was like, you don't know what kind of confrontation you're going to have when you get back in the house. And I was like, so that's why you should have a friend there so that you're not alone with her. And I was like, and if for some reason you are alone with her, I told him, I was like, I really thought she just left. I did. I was like, get your phone, put it on video, and put it in your pocket. And I was like, and just zip it up. And he's like, why? And I told him, I was like, because you can voice record. I was like, so if she comes home, I was like, and you two are still, like, if there's some choice words being said, because you guys obviously got into, like, something that's, early.
Did he ever articulate what their argument was
about? He did,
about?
and I will get there. But, I told him, like, just be prepared. Because at this point, like, it wasn't like I was, like, trying to make her to be a bad person. It was just like, I didn't know what was going on. I assumed that she had left, so I was like, well, when you get back, because I knew that they were going through a divorce, it was like, just cover your bases, try not to be alone. And if you are, just record what you guys are talking about. So, like, at the end of the day, like, nothing bad happens to you, And, like, that was kind of how I processed that whole situation. And so he was like, all right. And then she didn't come home that night. That was Monday night, right? Yes.
We're talking about Monday.
Monday night, yes. And he told me this is what he told me they talked about, and I realized that this is like total bullshit, and I think he's telling you guys a different story. And I think the reason that he's telling me I think the story he's telling you is probably slightly more accurate than the one he told me on this case, and the reason is because I think he was trying to save his ass with the fact that she's pregnant. So he told me that she had asked him to wake her up before he left for work on Monday morning. And so I don't know if she did that on a text or how it was supposedly communicated. But he said that he went to get her up, which I also found weird because, like, she's still sleeping when he leaves because she gets up with the kids and they get up shortly after that, but, like, it's just him in the mornings, And so he said that she woke up and those two kind of just, like, got in a disagreement, and I don't know what all was said, but he was like, she was being pretty mean. And then he said, she told me that she's pregnant, and she told me that the kid is not mine. That is what he told me.
So she's pregnant, the kid's not mine.
And that she's...
Like, he's playing it. He didn't know she was pregnant.
Yep.
Until that morning.
Yep.
And that she had an affair with somebody else.
Yes, and this is before I knew she was 15 weeks pregnant.
Okay.
Like, all the stuff on Monday that I read from my recollection, because I didn't find out she was pregnant until Tuesday. So anything that got posted on Monday did not emphasize the fact that she, like, had a baby on board. So then...
Let me ask you something. You said that he usually gets up in the morning and it's him, and she gets up and takes care of the kids. Is that the routine that you know for them? Or do you know him to get up and, like, prepare meals prior to him leaving the home?
Well, he gets up and he, like, goes to the gym, and he works out in his basement and, like, makes breakfast, and I don't know.
Does he make breakfast for himself, or does he make breakfast for his children?
I don't know. I don't know. They're still sleeping at that point. Like, all I know is he, at one point in sometime in this whole thing, he told me that they usually get up at, like, 6:30, and she gets him ready and takes him to school and, like, does all the morning stuff with them, as far as I know. And then in the afternoons, when he gets home from work, he kind of does more of the afternoon stuff.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a tag team operation that they have going on, but I think she does more in the AM and he does more in the PM.
Right.
It's kind of how I process that, but I don't know.
Okay. So she's mean to him and then throws this out.
Yes.
That she's pregnant from another man.
And I said, do you believe her? And he was just like, he said something about, like, oh yeah, like, she kind of looked like she was showing when we were in North Carolina, but I wasn't sure. And I'm like, so you think she's pregnant? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, do you think she's, like, having an affair? And he's like, I think she said that out of spite. And he's like, and I was like, okay. And then, and again, like, I think he's just saying all this to me to try to cover his tracks with me. Like, I don't know what he told you guys, but I bet it's probably very different. And I think that what he said to me, it was, like, directed towards me. Like, this whole bullshit little box lie that he had right there was, like, the lie directed.
Did he say when the argument started?
Nope. He just said it was in the morning. He said he woke her up in the morning.
Okay. Did he say when she came home? Did he ever let you know that?
I think I want to say he said around, like, 2, but I don't know.
Okay. And then he woke her for what purpose?
Because she asked him to.
Okay.
So I was under the impression that he was asleep. I'm assuming this is how it, like, went, and what he was trying to tell me is that he was asleep by the time she got home, and she sent him a text and said, wake me up before you leave. And then he woke her up, and they got in an argument, and then he went to work.
Okay.
That's how I processed
And the
it.
context of that argument, again, was just she's pregnant, and is there anything else that he shared with you?
He did not elaborate on it, and I didn't ask.
What were you thinking at that time?
This was, like, On Monday? Again, at that point, I was like, I still thought she left. I mean, this was all on Monday. Like, I legitimately thought this woman left the premises with her kids and just wanted nothing to do with him for like 24 hours.
So his story was believable that she was pregnant from another man and maybe she took off for that guy, or...
He said several times, like, I think she just said that out of spite.
Okay.
Like, he thought she was with one of her friends.
So he held true to that story.
Pretty much.
She's just leaving and she's with a friend.
That was kind of what he thought. And that's kind of what he had me believing. And at the time, I wasn't really alarmed because it'd been like a half a day.
Sure.
And so then Tuesday rolled around and...
Did you see him at all on Monday? You said you didn't,
No.
right? Earlier.
I did not see him. And I went to work Monday.
Did he ever try to convince you to come see him or say he wanted to come to your house?
No, not at all. We were supposed to go pick out apartments to go look at on Wednesday, so yesterday. But that obviously...
Right. So on Monday he never tried to be convincing to get you to come up to see him?
No.
Nothing?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think so, because my buddy Jim was over Monday and Tuesday, and he knew Jim was over Monday and Tuesday, and that's why we were going to hang out on Wednesday.
Okay.
So no, he didn't ask me. So Tuesday rolled around, and she still wasn't around, and this is when I started getting kind of sick. Like, my friend Jim was sick on Monday when he came up, and I don't know. I just started feeling like crap as it was, and then I was just kind of having a hard time focusing and like thinking about what was going on. And I'd asked him a few times. I'm like, "Where's your family, Chris? Like, where's your family?" You know, and he would tell me like, "Oh, I don't know," or "I want them home." Like, I asked like several times, so I think I got different responses. But each time, like, he didn't know where they were. You know, and I'm like, "She's still not home," and he's like, "No." And I had also asked him to like. He said he had a friend, Dave, that was a cop, which I also find convenient that there's another Dave working this case who's a cop. But I was like, well, Dave's off. Why don't you just have him like post up outside your house too and see if she shows up? You know, and he told me on Tuesday morning, he was like, I called Dave and asked him to sit outside my house and he's going to do it. And he's like, and then my friend Nick is coming over later on this afternoon. And I was like, okay.
Did you ever hear Nick's name before?
I've actually heard that name a few times, like, around him. Like, there's certain... I never heard Dave before. Dave was new, but I've heard the name Nick a lot, so I don't know if that's, like, real or what, but if I was to guess, like, friends that he, like, legitimately has, I would assume that he was one of them. But, yeah, because I know he's told me before, like, when we first started hanging out, that Nick lived kind of in the area, and he's like, he actually goes... He's a trail runner, and he's like, he runs... at East Lake number 3.
So he lives in your area?
Kind of.
Okay.
And I remember him saying that to me once. He's like, you know that park that we like hung out at? I was like, yeah. He's like, my buddy runs over there. We should not go to that park anymore. And I was like, okay. That's cool. And anyways, where were we at?
Tuesday morning. We're almost done.
I know. I'm trying to just keep it all together here for you guys. Tuesday morning. Oh, so he said Dave was going to stay outside of his house, and Nick was going to come over that afternoon. I was like, all right. And then I think most of the texting throughout that day was kind of like, have you heard anything? Like, what's going on? It was kind of like me checking up on him. And I don't remember everything, but it wasn't... I didn't even make it through the entire workday. Like, I was feeling really, really sick, like, in general. And then I decided on my lunch break to get on the internet and look at what was going on with all the reports. And I saw a report that was like, this woman who's 15 weeks pregnant and her 2 daughters are missing. And I was like... whoa, what? And I was just like so floored, and I read a couple other articles just to make sure that, you know, all the newspapers are, and like just double check, like, am I really reading this right? And I'm like, okay. And he had told me previously, like, she says she's pregnant with another man's kid, but he'd said like he could kind of tell in North Carolina, but that girl is like obviously pregnant. I mean, in her photos. I mean, 15 weeks, that's like 4 months. That's pretty far along. And so it's like, how would you not know if she's showing? Like, you